Welcome everyone to this very special edition of Coast to Coast. I am the West Coast professor Jeff Meacham, coming to you from Southern California, and joining me from the residence of the Cherries in nearby, forgot the name of the darn city, Oil City. There it is,
There you go.
Oil City,
I only
Pennsylvania.
got to be here in a few months.
I know, right? Seriously, I have the Pennsylvania sensation Greg Cherry and the Keystone Delight Alex Houston.
Boom. There you go.
Pleasure to be here.
Yes, everybody, welcome to the show. First of all, before we kick it off, I'd like to thank everybody who actually enjoyed the April's full strength that I pulled on them for Talk Wrestling. I didn't expect such a positive reaction. I expected wave of hate to come over me. So for everybody who actually enjoyed it, thank you very much. That was greatly appreciated.
And it is greatly appreciated I didn't get a bunch of negative flack for it either, because Aaron was hesitant. He was worried about quality as far as the video itself and then just the reaction of the fans, but we were all pleasantly surprised, so it was very awesome. So thank you, Greg, for doing that.
Absolutely. All right. Today we are going to have a few discussion topics, maybe not necessarily current events going on, but, we wanted to get some good wrestling discussion in. And the first thing we have today is the scripting of promos and how that has affected the current and recent years WWE product, because it really didn't come in to play until probably around 2004, 2005 timeframe where we really started to notice the promo scripting. Jeff, I'll let you start. My first question is, do you think it's necessary to have superstars have scripted promos?
Now, I think the best example that I can think of as far as scripting promos goes is reading Ric Flair's book back. Because when I read Ric Flair's book, he talks about the fact that he has a really hard time with doing things word for word and doing them over and over again. As far as the script goes, what he does is he has the writers, at least he did when he was still an active wrestler, do bullet points. That way he can lay into a Ric Flair promo, and in the meantime, he hits this bullet point, this one, in the course of cutting the promo. That way he makes sure he gets the writer's point across, gets creative points across, but also cuts a classic Ric Flair promo as only Ric Flair can do. I personally think that's the best thing to do. I think these over-scripting where they constantly, very much, the great example right now is Roman. Oh, my Lord. I'm not a bad guy. I'm not a good guy. I'm the guy. Roman, we know you're the champion, okay? You beat Triple H on the grandest stage of them all. We realize we were all watching a pay-per-view for 8.5 hours, okay? We get it. we don't need you to tell us every single week that you're the world champion. You're the guy. And I don't care if you're bad or good. As long as you wrestle a quality match against AJ Styles on Sunday night, I'll be your biggest fan come Monday morning.
That's very true. And, it's not just Reigns that I've noticed it with. I mean, if you watch any of the backstage promos anymore, you can see it doesn't have that same vigor as like a Rock promo from the Attitude Era. You see that they're looking straight ahead off camera. It's like, for a fact that they're reading a teleprompter. It's not even, It's like, really, you have to give that to guys like Orton too? It's like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, actually, I hate the whole side angle where they're looking, like you said, where they're looking over here and they're going, okay, this is what the prompter says, so I'm going to read this with as much emotion as humanly possible, considering I'm reading the damn words off a screen.
Yeah, and speaking from experience, it's hard to get words to convey when you're reading them off the screen. Like I went to school for broadcasting, and I had to read off a teleprompter, and you have to have some practice to convey some emotion, and even then, you can tell that you're not coming up with the stuff off the top of your head.
Exactly. It's so ridiculous to see quality promo guys like John Cena, like Randy Orton, like, you can name anybody, guys that can really talk a blue streak, staring at the side of the screen going, okay, this is what the prompter says. This is what I'm going to read. Terrible. What do you think, Alex?
I'm pretty much on board with you guys. I do have to say, especially with Roman Reigns, like you talked about earlier, Jeff, I'm not a bad guy. I'm not a good guy. That is absolutely awful. It's just, to me, it's like he's trying way too hard to get over with the crowd, and it's not working with me, obviously.
What's so bogus is this same guy 2 years ago was the runner-up of the Royal Rumble that everybody wanted to win, and everybody was so happy that he was getting screen time and getting a chance to possibly break away from the Shield before they ultimately broke up later that year and maybe go out on his own. And then when he goes out on his own, they totally cut him off of the legs promo-wise, and now he's just like, he's so boring to listen to.
In Reigns' defense, I don't think it's because we wanted Reigns to win. It's because we didn't want Batista to win. I think that's where it lies. So it's not really Reigns' fault for where he's at. I think that's because, they eliminated Punk. They really didn't want to see Sheamus win again. I say they, but we were there.
Right.
But, yeah, we were rooting for Reigns just because we didn't want to see Batista win.
Yeah, exactly. I don't, and you Greg know very well how many times I see AJ Styles live out here in California, how much a big a fan I am of his. But AJ's promos going into Mania and his promos since, even with the arrival of Anderson and Gallows, have just been like, where was the guy that made the Impact Zone pop with a simple word?
I'm going to say it, like, AJ Styles' promos never really captivated me. And Jen can attest to this. I'm more of a Christopher Daniels guy. So,
as you should be.
Yes. And Daniels' promos were far better than AJ's, which is why it's a shame that he's not with the WWE. I hope he has success in Ring of Honor. Another story.
He's doing very well in Ring of Honor. He and Kaz are having a good time. But, yeah, his promos may never been – he was never the best promo guy, but AJ could always still find that part of the audience where he would draw them in and make them pop no matter what he said. That's the mark of a good promo guy, no matter how mundane or boring you are as a promo guy. If you can find that part of the audience that goes, I like what he's saying, I'm going to cheer for this guy. That's the key to a promo. If you get the person to react either positive or negatively and make them go buy a ticket or buy the pay-per-view or buy the network to see the pay-per-view, then you've done your job. Roman and AJ's promos the last 4 weeks have just been like, okay, can we get to Owens and Zayn now and just make that main event?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, their promos have been bad, but the story building up to it has actually been pretty decent.
Yeah, exactly. I do like the story. I do like Carl and Luke being back, or Carl being in and Luke being back in WWE. I am anticipating, I talked about this on the No DQ predictions show I did with Aaron Rift, the arrival of Finn Balor to join up with Anderson and Gallows, and hopefully that happens. We'll talk more about Payback later. But I hope that happens, and I hope that Balor gets a chance to really tap into that negative side of him that we've seen in the independent circuit. Because Fergal Devitt could be a mean, evil dude when he wanted to be. And when he was part of the Bullet Club in Japan, he was a force to be reckoned with. And he's been very dominant as NXT champion, don't get me wrong, but his promos have been very lukewarm.
Going back to Roman Reigns real quick, I feel like they've tried to make him the next John Cena because I feel like they've just been forcing just Roman Reigns down our throat. But the biggest difference is John Cena can cut a promo and he can get that crowd to react, whereas Roman is just so monotone and it doesn't feel like there's any emotion at all in his promos.
I could agree with that.
It seems to me that John still has the creative liberty with his promos. What I mean by that is he can go out there and do the Flair thing and have bullet points and go, okay, John, make sure you talk about this, is this. He goes, okay, I got it, don't worry about it. And he'll go out there and cut a John Cena promo. And people will just eat that crap up, whether it's good or bad. He'll eat it up because it's John Cena. Roman is having everything laid out for him, piece by piece, brick by brick, stone by stone. And we're just like, okay, he's our world champion. We must suffer through. We must endure. We can do this.
Well, here's why I don't think they should fully script promos for people. Imagine if this would have happened years ago and they would have scripted guys like Roddy Piper or Stone Cold or Ric Flair or The Rock, or take your pick.
Macho Man,
Hogan. Like, can you imagine if they would have scripted those guys to a T? Would they have been as popular? Would wrestling even still be around if they scripted promos like that for those guys?
Well, it's my observation that wrestling will always be around no matter what happens in the business. I mean, WWE's lack of creative direction in the last 4 years prior to the day after WrestleMania is proof of that. But yeah, scripting promos for guys like Hogan and Savage and Flair and Piper and all those guys back in the day, and even Brett and Shawn Michaels as well, and Stone Cold Steve Austin to a certain extent. Although I know Austin had certain stuff laid out for him too when he was WWE champion. If they were to be so meticulous with the guys in the Attitude Era and the Golden Age as they are with the current PG era, then the product would have been a lot different, and it wouldn't have been as successful as it was by any means, by any stretch of the imagination. It would have been very, very much like we're seeing now, a champion who can't cut a promo to save his life, and we're all going, is he going to lose? Because that'd be sweet.
Pretty much.
Don't get me wrong. I like Roman. I always have liked Roman Reigns. He was honestly my favorite initially in the Shield before Seth frickin' blew up and took off. But he's not – he just does not have the rest of his family's ability to promo.
No.
I mean, look at the Usos. As young as they are, they're awesome. You've got Rikishi. You've got The Rock. You've got Yokozuna when he was allowed to talk, even could still do pretty well. And he had Mr. Fuji also. But all the members of his family have been really good with either promos or having managers cut promos for them. If Roman was a bad guy and had a mouthpiece, it would serve him so well.
He was a bad guy once, Daddy.
It's true, he was.
You can't mention Yokozuna without mentioning Tim Cornette either.
Yeah, Cornette.
Exactly. Look how far Jimmy Cornette took Yokozuna as his American spokesperson, because nobody could cut a promo like Jim Cornette.
No, dude, I love Jim Cornette.
Turn heel at some point. Yeah, if Roman were to turn heel sooner than later and get a mouthpiece a la, the Authority or somebody like that could be there to, fill in the blanks for him, it would do him wonders.
The good old days of having managers, the bygone era.
And you know what? I feel like all the efforts we did on the independent circuit, you as well as me as a manager, seem to have bypassed the WWE audience.
Yeah. I mean, it's sad because, and this is a little off topic and we'll get right back on it, but the fact that there isn't another Bobby Heenan-esque guy to be a manager for guys like Andre, Haku, however many people were in his family, you need good people to speak. I mean, you had Lana for Rusev, and she's decent, but she's nowhere near what guys like Heenan and Cornette could do. I know
Rusev seems to do better cutting it. Yeah, Rusev seems to do better cutting his own promos than he has Lana speaking for him, because Rusev is that big, angry brute who just gets his point across by hollering and screaming and like, no, I do this is my way. And Lana is sardonic and very sarcastic and very like, nah, I don't care because I'm better than you. And it's like, well, let me get you pretty, but you're not better than half the managers in this company or the managers in history of the company. So just shut your mouth.
Yeah. You know who'd be a really good manager, and maybe this is personal bias? Corey Graves. I mean, if you just listen to his commentary on NXT, for crying out loud, he puts Eva Marie over as legitimate. So if he can make you believe that, he can make you believe freaking anything.
I sit in this chair every single week with my Roku remote in my hand, watching NXT going, please don't Eva Marie. Please don't Eva Marie, because I don't want to listen to Corey Graves' part over. And sure enough, here comes the red. I'm like, oh, God, here we go with Graves. But you know what? But you know what? He makes you believe, like you said. And if he were a mouthpiece for anybody, the thing is, and I hate to be so white meat baby face when it comes to my booking, but Corey Graves doesn't have the look to be a WWE main roster manager.
I don't know. We can agree to disagree there. I don't think his look matters as much as his actual ability, personally.
He's got ability, but I just don't think that his appeal to the NXT market as a heel commentator would transfer to his appeal to the WWE mainstream audience as a manager for bad guys.
Well, getting back on topic, my next question is who benefits and who suffers from scripted promos? I mean, I'm sure there are guys that need the help with scripted promos, but there are some guys who are being limited.
It's my observation that most of the guys are being hindered. I mean, you've got people really crap on the social outcasts, but all four of those guys, even Joe Henning, can talk. I mean, Joe doesn't have his father's speaking ability, but he's still very, very good on the microphone. And you've got Adam Rose when
I'll say this for the social outcasts. I don't know if you watched the Rumble pre-show, but there was a promo, like a segment with the social outcasts doing like their questions and answers, and they were freaking hilarious. I mean, I was almost on the floor laughing at Curtis Axel and what he was saying. It was so great.
Yeah, Axel's hysterical. Adam Rose, when he's not doing drugs, is good on the mic. I'll wait for the laugh. There we go. Okay.
Yes.
You've got Heath Slater, who is unbelievable. He's so entertaining, and people don't give him near enough credit. And the fact that he took the funniest picture with me in Access because he looked drunk as in the picture of me. He's entertaining. He's fun to watch. And then you have Bo Dallas, who is the grandson of wrestling royalty who passed away recently, whose father is a wrestling entertainer, whose uncle is in the business as well, and Bo is just not connecting. I don't get the appeal of Bo Dallas, especially on the main roster.
I'm with you on that one, Jeff. Bo Dallas has never really appealed to me. I thought he had a very silly gimmick. It might have worked in NXT, but when he was brought up to the main roster, it did not work. And I also agree with you on Heath Slater. I've been a fan of Heath Slater since the Nexus, the original Nexus.
Yep. I liked everybody in that group, both original and new Nexus. And the only guy to really come out of that looking like a star has been Bray Wyatt.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Everybody else falling by the wayside. And
go ahead.
That's the difference. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's all right. I apologize. I feel like Wade Barrett, especially in the Nexus, just to go a little off topic, I feel like Wade Barrett was, I mean, when he was the top heel, I mean, when he was rivaling with Cena, he was absolutely fantastic. He's so good on the mic, and I just like everything about him, honestly. But it just feels like he only can get to the Intercontinental title because I think he's a 4 or 5-time IC champion now. Yeah, 5-time IC champion. And he just can't get that extra push for the world title, and I think that's a real shame. I think they're really not utilizing his talent.
And there's a guy that can cut a promo.
Oh, dude, absolutely. He's so good at cutting promos. So good.
And it frustrates me because his Bad News Barrett gimmick was perfect for him. When he initially started doing it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so dumb. And then he started doing the thing with the 15-foot tall podium, and I was like, okay, this is pretty awesome. And then he gets there, the crowd loves him, so what do? Make him win King of the Ring and then bury him.
Yeah. They spent the last year burying him into oblivion, and then he's like, I'm out of here, bye.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. When Barrett can't get a pop in England, you freaking buried him.
Yeah.
It's a refund, Daddy.
Because Barrett spent the last 5 years getting buried ever since the Nexus broke up. But it took the King of the Ring and the year of crap for him to go, I'm kind of done.
Such a shame, too.
It really is, because like I said, that group, he can cut a promo. Alberto can cut an amazing promo. Alberto is so good on the microphone. He's my favorite of the four. Sheamus, I don't like his in-ring ability, but he can talk when he wants to. And then you have Rusev.
Well, the League of Nations stable in and of itself was a giant bust.
I was so upset when they grouped those guys together. It's like, really? I mean, I didn't think it was necessary.
Or did Kevin Owens dodge a bullet?
Right? No kidding.
Because he was supposed to be in that group, but he got sick.
What? Yeah, I know. What the funny thing is, what are any of the four of those guys doing on Sunday, and what's Kevin Owens doing?
Kevin Owens is going to have probably the match of the night against Sami Zayn.
He might have the match of the year, and it's only freaking May.
Well, after this, I'm actually going to show Houston the Zayn Nakamura match from NXT TakeOver Dallas because he says he hasn't seen it yet. Yeah.
Oh, dear Christ.
Oh, yeah. And I'm like, you know what? Zayn Nakamura beats anything of last year.
You need to film his reaction and put it on this show.
I should. I should just have the camera on him, do a reactions video, because apparently, and I've noticed this, reaction videos of watching anything get like tons of views, and I don't get it.
They've made fun of it on the Edge of Christian show. Did you see that on the network?
I haven't watched the Edge of Christian show.
Okay, there was an episode where one of the segments was two guys reacting to AJ Styles' debut in WWE. They were huge AJ fans. Mm-hmm. And so they brought them to the Sanford studios with Edge and Christian to do a AJ Styles impersonation recognition thing. So one guy came out in AJ gear doing Christian's entrance. And they're like, no, that was Christian's. And the other guy came out, it did Edge's and it did the whole, the star thing and the whole with his hands up like this.
Yeah.
That was your thing. And then the third guy comes out as freaking AJ Styles. And the two guys' reactions to him coming out were even better than their videos.
I actually can't say much about reaction videos because I've watched a few, and there's some that are pretty entertaining. This is the show where I'm totally honest and don't sugarcoat things like I do on the other show I do. I don't watch YouTube videos. I don't watch my own. I don't watch anybody else's. I just don't sit there and go on YouTube. The only thing I use YouTube for, honest to God, is when I'm laying down to go to bed, I find the Star Trek white noise video and put that on and go to sleep by. You better hope they don't take that down.
I hope not, because it's a 24-hour loop of the Enterprise making the noise it makes in space, and it's just so soothing. But luckily, there's tons of other white noise videos on YouTube. I can go on and find pretty much anything I want to have play against the lack of noise in my room and just let me sleep in peace. Not the last couple of nights give you, but that's another story for the show. But yeah. Anyway, back to the promo topic. We went about 5 minutes ago. Yeah, promos. I don't see really anybody that's benefiting from the over scripting. I think the guys that are using the scripted stuff are probably getting little points to hit and not full on monotone like Roman Reigns. Roman is reading off a prompter and driving me batshit crazy. You got guys, the greatest example is the guys that have been in the two main event style matches going into Payback. You've got Roman and you've got Chris Jericho. Roman is staring at the side screen and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And Jericho is doing this, but he's also looking at you. He's looking at Renee Young. He's looking at here, and he's engaging every single member of the audience because he's Chris Jericho.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at the promo ability of Chris Jericho, and it beats probably 95% of the guys on the roster right now.
I agree, 100%.
Yeah. I mean, Jericho has stage presence from not only wrestling, but being with Fozzy, being the lead man of Fozzy. It's like, clearly he has to know what engaging an audience is.
Jericho has stage presence because he learned from the Hearts, and one of his first gigs in America was working for Jim Cornette.
Well, there you go.
Wow.
That would do
Smoky
it.
Mountain. What's funny is he was in a team with Lance Storm in Smoky Mountain as the Thrill Seekers. Jericho became one of the greatest pro men of all time. Lance Storm became Lance Storm.
Poor Lance Storm. Yeah, I occasionally read his blog because he's entertaining on his blog.
Yeah, his blog's entertaining. If he could be that engaging in a talking promo verbally, he'd have been the world champion.
Yeah, well, he almost was in WCW because he held like every championship at the same time.
I think he was even women's champion, wasn't he?
WCW didn't have a women's championship.
What's that?
WCW didn't have a women's championship.
They did briefly when Medusa first came over. There was one match. It was Medusa versus Akira Hokuto, and Akira Hokuto won the championship. And then they had another match later on in the line, and it was Medusa's retirement match before she went away and came back with Team Madness.
Well, I guess that would have been pre-Storm then.
It was pre-Lance Storm. I was just making the joke. He already about. I might as well have the women's title too.
Yeah. What other titles were there?
Well, he held the U.S. Cruiserweight and Hardcore title. He could have been world champion, one half of the tag team champions, and team title was gone by then. Yeah, just those three. What was awesome was I met him in Vegas at the Nitro Grill, if everyone remembers that, when he had already won the U.S. and Hardcore championship. He had already put the Canadian plate on the sticker on the U.S. championship belt, and the Hardcore title was not quite the Saskatchewan Hardcore national title yet, but it was on its way.
Saskatchewan Hardcore international title.
So do you think that the NXT guys are the ones who end up suffering the most as far as promos go when they're called up to the main roster? Because I mean, I can just feel, sometimes I can feel in their promos, I can feel like the 8 or 10 writers or however many they have now who are creating these promos for them. I can just feel like it was generated like from a machine, and there's no real feeling behind it.
Most definitely. Think about it this way. Right now, Triple H is in creative control of NXT. He's got, I think, a handful, if that, of writers working with the kids down there, working with the guys that are on the roster right now. You know, that's why you're seeing Samoa Joe get this much, because he doesn't need to. Samoa Joe is freaking Samoa Joe. You got Finn Balor, who, even in his NXT promos, is seeming less engaging than he was as Fergal Devitt in Japan and other parts of the world, because for whatever reason they're not letting Finn Balor really explore his dark side yet. You've got NXT, you've got right now, there's no greater example of people getting over just by doing the same thing and going works than Enzo and Cass. Those guys do literally the same thing every single time they come out there, but it worked in NXT, and by God, it's working on the main roster.
Yeah, when I saw them come out, I unfortunately was not familiar with Enzo and Cass before the Raw after WrestleMania, and when these guys came out, when the Dudleys were making their way back, slowly, I knew something was going to happen, but when Enzo just started cutting that promo and that entire crowd was mimicking everything he was saying, I was like, holy cow, who are these guys and why don't I know them?
There is a reason they have new debuts and new call-ups at WrestleMania, because that crowd is always so bass backwards about reactions that they can take Enzo and Cass and make them stars. And they can take, anybody that was called from NXT. I mean, seriously, how many people were screaming at me over the course of the previous few months leading into WrestleMania weekend for Jason Jordan and Chad Gable to have Kurt Angle come in and manage them? And I'm going, no, they don't need Kurt Angle. They are great on their own, and they're not great. They're very, very good. They are becoming great. Now that they're champions, they will have a chance to shine better. Those two guys are a great example. Jason Jordan was caught in tag team partner hell. He couldn't get a partner to stick with him to save his life. And then Chad Gable comes along, this goofy little Olympian who, nobody gave a chance in WWE until he really started pushing after Jason Jordan. And now they're the tag team champions. And they beat one of the best tag teams in NXT history in the Revival. Another team that says very little but does a lot with what they have.
Yeah, well, the thing with Dash and Dawson is they don't need to say anything. They go out there, they kick your ass, they leave. It's like, why do you need to talk?
Yeah, they are very Anderson and Blanchard.
I didn't say anything.
I said they are very Anderson and Blanchard, except that Tully and Arn can still talk blue streak. But when they go in the ring, they just kick your ass and walk away. Like, bye. You
tell them, Tully.
That's right. And what's so here, Alex, I'll give you a great example of call-ups differences from NXT to WWE and suffering on the main roster. The Ascension.
Okay. Yes.
They were the best tag team in NXT history by and large. Longest reigning tag team champions of all time in that brand. They get called up, and they didn't say more than 5 words a show, if that. They get called to the main roster. They're doing these stupid vignettes of them hyping their debut. They come in, they win their first few squash matches, and then they get exposed for how crappy they are in the ring. And then now one of them's on suspension. They just.
Well, combine that with the complete rip-off Legion of Doom gimmick, which they could have pulled off because, Demolition was a Legion of Doom rip-off, but they could at least work.
Yeah, the problem is they weren't that much of an LD ripoff in NXT. They had a very similar strong kick-your-butt style in NXT, but they weren't over the top, wearing the shoulder pads, doing the whole spiel. And when they got called up, I'm watching them going, this is not the same Victor and Connor. What the hell is going on?
My biggest bone that I have to pick with the Ascension, and I remember JBL having a very similar reaction to this, was when I think they were cutting one of their first promos. I don't think it was on their debut, but it was shortly after their debut, and they were talking about how they were better than Demolition. They were better than Legion of Doom. And that they haven't proven themselves yet to me as a fan at that point. And so it's like, who are you to compare yourselves to some of the best tag teams of all time? I mean, that really pissed me off, and it pissed JBL off too, because I remember him just ripping them apart. Like, who are these guys?
The APA could have blew them out of the water.
Oh, dude, yeah, APA could have blown them out of the water for sure.
And they did.
Yeah, they did. They did. Them, the Outlaws, and the NWO.
That's right. That's right. And deservedly so.
Yes. All right. Our next topic.
And there's a. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Our next topic, I know you want to get back to that, so I'll let you, but I want to get started with the brand split. There's rumors that there would be a new brand split with what's going on at Payback with Shane and Stephanie between Raw and SmackDown again. Before we get into that, I want to ask you what went right and what went wrong with the original brand split from 2002 till I think about 2012-ish.
Yeah. What went right is initial outing. The initial outing of the brand extension was very, very well done. They completely split the roster up into 2 distinct, unique shows with unique, distinct writers on each side. And they only came together once a month, at least at first. And then as time progressed, they had their own pay-per-views. So they would have separate shows every month. And what was great about it was, is that you were getting new things every single week, every single month on pay-per-view. You were getting unique matches, things you hadn't seen before. And the problem with the brand extension is toward the end, you had people who were leaving WWE and weren't on the roster anymore or whatever, and you had depleted rosters, especially when they added ECW and they started doing the talent exchanges. That absolutely killed the brand extension. Having SmackDown ECW trade talent, having Raw and ECW trade talent. The initial trades in the early days of 2002, 2003, or 2002 especially, where you had Bischoff and Stephanie vying for talent based on their sales pitches. Stephanie luring Guerrero and Benoit to SmackDown was a huge coup for SmackDown back then because they also brought the Intercontinental Championship with Benoit. And then they had a huge promotional match at SummerSlam between RVD and Chris Benoit. It was a battle of brands. It was a battle for the title. It was a battle of two of the great wrestlers of the time, and it made for compelling pay-per-view TV. And toward the end, it was like, okay, we're seeing the same guys on both shows. Why are we having separate brands? Why not just get rid of SmackDown and make Raw a 3-hour show? Which I regret that statement looking at that back now. But because yikes, 3 hours every week, it's like two at most, man. Yikes. But if they were to do a brand extension now, they were to split the roster, it would be the best time because their roster is huge. They've got so many guys on that roster that get zero TV time. Look at Zack frickin' Ryder. He wins the Intercontinental Championship on Sunday, loses it on Monday, gets the rematch on Thursday, and then disappears for a month.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean,
if he were on a roster of one brand or another, he would get so much more use.
Definitely. And back to going what went right and what went wrong. I believe the initial I don't want to say the draft itself, but when they brought back the yearly draft, it's like, well, we're going to shake things up again. Those were fun episodes because it's like, well, things could change. We're going to get new feuds after this, which I don't know why they didn't do them the night after WrestleMania to completely shake things up because it'd be a new year. But those nights, and even 2005 when they were doing it for an entire month, it's like, oh, we're going to have a new superstar debut tonight, Thursday, and so on and so forth. And that's when you have the Cena introduction to Raw. That's when Batista went to SmackDown. And stuff like that. When the brands were completely separate and they only came together for the Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series. That was perfect. And then they started showing up on everybody's shows. It's like, well, why have the separate brands if you're just going to have them all wrestle? It's like, don't have the interpromotional matches on TV. Have them on pay-per-view where you have to pay for it.
Yeah,
and to add to that...
Oh, go ahead, Alex.
I was just going to say, just to add to that, I think the build-up to the splitting of the brands initially with Ric Flair, well, I guess that wasn't initial, but when Ric Flair came in and he and Vince were after the invasion angle, when they became partners, I thought that was huge, and that was my favorite as far as any the splitting between the brands. I loved when Vince and Ric Flair were in charge of Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. I thought that was a really, really cool storyline.
I was at the Raw SmackDown Super Show in June of 2005 when they did the last 4 picks, 2 on Raw, 2 on SmackDown. That's when Batista debuted. That's when that was the night that Hogan and Michaels teamed up against Angle and Carlito, I think, the week before Michaels turned on Hogan. And that Super Show was compelling. The entire 4.5 or 5 hours that we were there, we were waiting to see what draft picks were made, who was going to come through that curtain next for the other side. And like you said, Greg, as it got later on, it was like we're seeing the same guys on both shows twice a week. It's like, why are we Why should we be interested in a brand extension and brand split when there's no split brand anymore? And then, God, when ECW was on, there was 3 shows where you were seeing the same guys. Seriously, you would see the Big Show on all 3 shows every week.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because he was involved in the McMahon feud with DX, so he was on Raw, and he was on ECW as the world champion, and then he would appear on SmackDown sometimes too. It was like, dude, Big Show, you're a big guy. I need to see you 3 times a week.
Yeah, I don't get it. But my next point that I have here is what superstars could benefit from a current brand split with the roster as it is. And I know you mentioned Zack Ryder as one who definitely could. A lot of the lower card guys and probably some of the mid carders would benefit from the brand split. I'd say guys like Ziggler, he could definitely benefit from it. Tyler Breeze, who they're not doing anything with, he could probably benefit from it. Titus O'Neil, now that I think he's back after his ridiculous suspension. I mean, who else do you think could benefit from this?
Damian freaking Sandow.
You're welcome.
That guy has done diddly poo since the breakup with Axel because Hogan got fired.
Yeah, and that sucks because that wasn't his fault.
No.
And I would argue he hasn't done anything since he broke up with Miz.
Well, no, that's true to a certain extent, but the mega powers gimmick was hysterical for a while.
Oh yeah, it was.
But yeah, you've got him. You've got, Baron Corbin, who is starting to finally get his push. Now he's on the main roster, but he's had a series of schmoz breakup brawls with Ziggler, and it's getting his first real definitive match finish probably on Sunday. It's like, dude, you call him up, use him right. Let's see. I'm actually looking at the roster right now. I lost it. Where'd it go? There it is. I'm looking at the roster.
Who do you think could benefit?
Well, like Jeff just said, Baron Corbin is one who really sticks out to me. I was really happy and very surprised, actually, to see him win the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. I really thought Kane was gonna win. I was kind of pulling for Kane because I thought that would be a nice addition to his already Hall of Fame career. But that was a nice push for Baron, and ultimately, you have to invest in the younger talent because, I mean, Lord knows how much longer Kane is going to be around to be active on the roster, not just as like corporate Kane, even though he's kind of gotten away from that gimmick, which I'm happy about. But yeah, Baron Corbin for sure, and Shinsuke Nakamura, of course. I mean, I know that he won't be called up to the main roster probably for a little bit, but if and when they do decide to call him up, he would be phenomenal.
Another guy, Fandango. What have they done with him since Rosa took her maternity leave?
Well, didn't they break up before that, though?
They may have, but even still, he hasn't done anything since he lost his full-time dance partner, period. He hasn't done anything in a while. You've got, Neville's hurt. I forgot Neville was hurt. Orton's hurt. Gee, everybody's hurt.
Yeah, everybody is hurt.
Rollins is hurt. Sin Cara. Jeez. Everybody gets on Sin Cara for being a botch fest, but he's not given a chance. He had the Intercontinental title match at WrestleMania. Where's he been since then? He's been in a couple of tag matches with Kalisto, but Kalisto's still the U.S. champion. So he's getting a bigger push.
Yeah.
And like you said, Tyler Breeze. Tyler Breeze is grossly misused.
Mm-hmm.
That guy is good. I've liked him from the get. And then with the girls, ever since Nikki Bella got hurt and Brie retired, where's Alicia Fox been? Where's Cameron been? They called Eva Maria, but she hasn't been in a match, as far as I know, on the main roster since WrestleMania, unless I'm remembering it correctly. Paige, they called up Sasha your girl, Becky and Charlotte, and then the show is them and Natty, and they've got so many more women on the roster that they could use.
Yeah. Well, here's the only thing that I have a problem with the brand split would be the women's division. And because you would still have to have just one women's championship, but you couldn't make it brand exclusive like it was with Raw back in the day. Because, quite frankly, I don't want the return of the Divas Championship. Don't anybody misconstrue that. That butterfly belt can burn. But you need to have the women's champion defend on both shows.
You do. You need a women's championship to be brand sharing, like the Undisputed title was supposed to be back in 2002.
Yeah. They don't need to bring back separate world titles either. Like, you can put the Intercontinental on one, you can have the U.S. on one, maybe bring back the split tag team titles, or like put the hardcore title on one. I'd be for that.
But they just unified. They just unified the world heavyweight title. What, a year and a half ago?
Back in late 2013, I think.
Well, really, it's been that long.
TLC match with Orton and Cena.
2.5 years, yeah.
Yeah, it's way too soon to split up the world titles if they were going to do a brand split.
They shouldn't split it up. It should be one world champion.
Right.
Like, just have Reigns, unfortunately it's him right now, just defend the title against whoever's the number one contender, whether it be Raw or SmackDown. Just call it good.
What they did in the early brand extension days is that 1 month the champion would defend against the Raw number one contender, the next month SmackDown, and they would go back and forth, and it worked.
Yep. Yes, it did. Well, let's move on to our next topic, which we kind of delved into a little bit earlier, and it's NXT guys and girls, honestly, being called up to the main roster. And we can ask the question, who, since NXT has become its own popular brand, who has benefited the most from being in NXT and being called up to the main roster?
The girls.
Yeah, Sasha, Charlotte, and Becky. Mm-hmm.
Those three are the reason they are now called superstars along with the guys. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that. I mean, the three of them are really the reason that it's no longer a Divas division anymore, and it's a women's division, which has been long asked for since they eliminated the original women's championship in favor of the butterfly belt. But
seriously, I almost bought a figure size belt like this as the Divas Championship just to burn it. I almost did that just to spite WWE and myself.
Yes, I don't blame you for that, but fortunately there was no trash can for JBL to drop the belt into and blow up. But we can only hope they did that behind the scenes. Other than
what they should have done is had Charlotte go to the announce table, pick up a trash can, and throw it in the trash can right at the announce table.
Just like Medusa.
Like Alundra. Yeah.
That probably would have been entertaining to just dump the Divas title in favor of the women's title. But they had that whole ceremony, so that kind of like eliminated the need for that.
And it was so nice, and Charlotte wore the Divas title, and she was like, "Yay, I'm still champion." And she's like,
Yeah. Aside from those three, though, for the men, who do you think has benefited? I mean, you really can't count Enzo and Cass or Baron Corbin or Apollo Crews at this point because, I mean, they're recently fresh call-ups. But other than that, who do you think has benefited the most?
Kalisto.
I would agree.
Wow.
Two-time U.S. champion. I would have to agree with that. Because, like we mentioned...
Kalisto has been a shining star since he got called up.
I would have to agree with that. I mean, if you watch the TLC, or not the TLC, it was just a ladder match, the tag team ladder match from the TLC pay-per-view with the Lucha Dragons, the New Day, and the Usos, I believe. That high spot with Kalisto doing the Salida del Sol through the ladder, that was an awesome spot.
How do you say it? Salito del Sol? Is that how you say it?
Salida del Sol, I think that's what it's called.
Okay. I can never understand Cole when he calls it. I'm just gonna go with it, and it's pretty.
Yeah, it looks good. Trying to think who else since NXT really became
Kevin Owens.
Oh my gosh.
KO, man.
Duh.
Kevin
and
Owens.
Sammy.
Yes, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn.
Yes.
Jeez.
I was so.
We are fired, people.
We are. Good night, everybody. We're done.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh my gosh.
That's it.
When I first saw
on Sunday, we're forgetting both of them. Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm ashamed to say the first time I saw Kevin Owens was when he challenged John Cena, and that match just I was blown away. My expectations were I'm ashamed to say they were very, very low because I was like, who's this guy? I've never seen him before. And he came in and he tore the place down with Cena, and it was very surprising, and I've been a Kevin Owens fan ever since.
I've made no bones about my dislike for Kevin Steen. Kevin and I did not get along at PWG. When I was a fan, he was a wrestler there. But that picture they showed in the hype video for this match on Sunday, the very last picture of Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Owens wearing a PWG shirt. I discovered both of them in PWG, 3 or 4, one or the other. I forget which one it was. And they have continued to impress me over the years in the ring. Not a fan of Kevin's outside the ring. He's kind of a jerk, at least to the fans. And all of his character, that's just who he is. I don't know. Never will know. Don't really give a shit, to be perfectly honest with you. But him and Sammy in the ring is just pure magic. It was magic in Gorilla. It was magic in Ring of Honor. It was kind of magic in NXT. It was pretty much one-sided in Owens' favor in NXT. But since Sammy returned to the main roster at the Royal Rumble, these two guys have been on a collision course, and now they are definitely the 2 most successful NXT call-ups.
I have one that we didn't think of. Technically 3.
Uh-oh.
The Shield.
Oh, durr.
I was thinking about it. It's like, wait a minute. Ambrose, Reigns, and Rollins. Yep. Probably the 3 biggest from NXT.
All 3 capable of being
get up and walk off the set, but I'm kind of having a hard time getting up. So.
Yeah. Yeah, we are really bad with this.
And the thing is, I'm an NXT fan. I watch NXT every single week. I should know this. The thing is, I didn't watch NXT in the Shield days.
Well, that's because the network wasn't a thing. It wasn't a thing till like 2 or 3 months later. So NXT wasn't a weekly show unless you had Hulu, I don't think.
Hulu, or are you able to find it online by some freaking bootleg or something?
Yeah.
Which, when it comes to this,
because that's when JR was calling the show, was good then too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I guess it was 2012, so it was actually another year plus before the network. I was thinking they debuted in 2013, but 2012 was like Health Punk.
You know, the thing about the Shield, from my perspective, was, and it felt this way because, from my perspective, that when Dean was the U.S. champ and Rollins and Reigns were the tag champs, it felt like they were pushing Dean as the leader of the Shield. And I was always kind of a Dean Ambrose guy anyways, but he's really, outside of the Shield, he's really broken out on his own. And I think there are some similarities that I like to compare him to Piper. The way he cuts his promos, how wild and crazy he gets. I think there's a lot of similarities there, and that's another reason why I like him, because Piper's easily in my top 5 of favorite wrestlers of all time.
I agree with that. It's definitely top 5 stickman of all time. Yeah, the Shield has been the top developmental success story of the last 10 years by far.
No arguing that, man.
No way.
Yeah, two of them become world champion, another one U.S. and Intercontinental champion, and Ambrose was U.S. champion for almost a year. So,
So yeah, the Shield, Owens and Zayn, Kalisto as U.S. champion, and the women have definitely been NXT success stories. And if you look at the roster NXT has now, Finn Balor is going to do great things. Samoa Joe is going to do great things. Dash and Dawson are going to be awesome in the tag team division. Jordan and Gable are going to be awesome. Pretty much everybody they have on their roster right now, guy-wise, except for this goofy deal, has success written all over it.
Did it surprise you that they put Samoa Joe in NXT without bringing him up automatically to the main roster? I mean, the guy has so much experience. It's like, why do you put him in the developmental program? Did that make sense to you?
Made perfect sense to me because that's where he wanted to be. He has to be put there.
you know, and I may argue with some people. I don't think NXT is really developmental anymore. NXT is its own thing, and you want to be in NXT.
That's a good point.
Because, I mean, the crowd reactions alone, I mean, they're obviously more invested in the people, which I guess you could argue since they're in Full Sail. I mean, you could argue that with how popular TNA guys were because they were always in the Impact Zone. And it's the same kind of thing, and they're not too far from each other. But, I mean, the NXT guys, it seems like they have a little more freedom to be themselves and try new things out.
I have made it a point, leading up to my brief hiatus from watching wrestling full time, I watched WWE, I watched TNA, I watched Ring of Honor when I could, I watched a company called Championship Wrestling from Hollywood that's based out here in Southern California when I could on Saturday afternoons. I DVR'd it, and I watched NXT. NXT has been the most consistently good wrestling program the last year on any sort of broadcast, whether it's TV or network, whatever you want to call it. It's been consistently good every single week, whereas the other programs, even Ring of Honor to a certain extent, have faltered at times. NXT has never been bad in my eyes. I look forward to watching NXT. I literally get up Wednesday mornings, take my shower before I take going to school, come back home, put on my NXT shirt, and just wait for 5 o'clock. I do. Because I like watching that show on time every week. And NXT has a great male roster. You've got Bobby Roode that's going to start soon. Eric Young started this week at the tapings. And you've got this amazing crop of guys that are already on the roster. And as well as the girls, I mean, the girls that are still left in NXT, Alexa Bliss, Asuka, Bayley, Billie Kay, Carmella, Dana Brooke, Nia Jax, and Peyton Rose, those girls are the future of WWE Women's Championship division. And right now, Asuka is the NXT Women's Champion, but who's to say Bayley won't regain, or Nia Jax won't win, or Eva Marie won't come back down and, raise hell there. They've got a solid crop of people on the male and female side of the roster that they are going to continue to thrive much more than the WWE roster is surviving. I feel NXT is the most popular brand of professional wrestling out there right now in the United States of America, and I really feel that they're only going to get better from here.
I definitely agree with that. Well, that being said, let's look at tomorrow night, Payback, which looks to be an incredibly stacked card, and I've argued with a few people that it's actually better than the WrestleMania card overall. And,
wow.
Yeah.
I would have to agree with that. I mean, every match on this card, even the pre-show match, well, maybe not the pre-show match is kind of lame, but the other 7 matches on this card, every one of them has some sort of serious significance to the main roster storylines, compared to WrestleMania where everything felt like it was just going through the motions.
Yeah, and that's really unfortunate because some of the matches didn't really have a build-up worthy of WrestleMania. I mean, look at the pre-show matches. Usos and the Dudleys was kind of thrown together. The 10 Divas tag wasn't fully complete until the Raw before Mania. Kalisto and Ryback didn't really make much sense because Ryback had just turned heel a few weeks earlier. What else was there on the main card that didn't really make much sense? I'd say League of Nations. Yeah. League of Nations versus New Day seemed kind of pointless because it wasn't for the titles. Good thing because I didn't want the League of Nations to win. Taker Shane in hindsight was kind of pointless because Shane ended up wrong anyway. Unless we just, I'm not going to give WWE writers credit for saying, well, I guess all he had to do was compete in the match. Nobody ever said he had to win. I'm not giving them that much credit because they're not that smart. But Reigns versus Triple H was set up from like last year. What else happened?
AJ and Jericho, I feel fell flat.
Yeah, that was not the strongest of their matches. I felt their Fastlane match was better.
I agree with that. But you look at this card, you've got 7 main show matches that really have delivered the last 4 weeks of TV. And even the U.S. title match on the pre-show between Kalisto and Ryback means about as much as the show at WrestleMania did, but maybe they can go 2 ways with that match. If Ryback wins, then Ryback gets a solid push toward the promised land again. I'm not a fan of Ryback personally, but the guy's got a look. He can talk pretty well, I guess, and the WWE wants him to work. So if they're going to do something with him, the time is now. If he loses, he's in the back burner for good.
Yeah. And that's actually the first match I have down is Kalisto and Ryback for the U.S. Championship. And I think
good thing I brought it up.
Yeah, good timing. This, I think, will be, I agree with you, I think this will be Ryback's chance to become U.S. champion. He's already been Intercontinental champion by winning a really crappy Elimination Chamber match. But I think this is better for him. I think he has improved in his promo ability. So I think that this is Ryback's time. He's going to become the new U.S. champion.
When it comes to Ryback, I'm really torn because I liked him there for a while, but I will admit what Greg said. He has improved on his promos, which I'm happy to see, but I just can't get invested in his character. I can't. There's just something about him that. And I hope he does win the U.S. title. I mean, I do really like Kalisto, but when they brought him in, the rumors that I had heard was he could be as big, if not bigger, than Cena as a babyface, and I think those rumors have been squashed. He's kind of fell flat as a babyface, and he's kind of turned a couple times from babyface to heel, and hopefully this heel run will be successful.
I agree.
Now, I know you did your prediction show, but you might as well do it for this one too.
I thought I did. I'm picking Ryback. Yeah, if Ryback has to win, or he's doomed.
All right. Next up, I have a match that I'm pretty excited for. The Tag Team Championship #1 contenders match between Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy against the Vaudevillains in Ape Implosion Simon Gotch. This one could be a lot of fun, actually. Not just because I'm expecting a pre-match promo from Enzo Amore, but just because it's 2 NXT tag teams that were there for a while that are now called up, and now one of them's getting the #1 contender state tag team titles. It should be a pretty good match. As much as I love Enzo and Cass, I enjoy the Vaudevillains as well, and I'm actually going to pick English and Gotch to win.
I'm a big fan of the Vaudevillains. I watched them wrestle a couple times on NXT, and their gimmick is so unique. And when I saw them come out in their entrance, I was like, okay, it's like this is kind of weird, but I'm getting into it. I like it, and it's like, let's see what these guys can do in the ring. And then they completely blew me away with their talent. I mean, they are really, really good as a team, and I'm pulling for them to win. Even though I do really enjoy Enzo and Cass, I would rather see the Vaudevillains take this.
This match is an example for me of two teams that I sat in that next room taping with Aaron and saying that their gimmicks would not work on the main roster. Boy, have I been proven wrong so far. People are telling me in feedback from Talk Wrestling this last week that the Vaudevillains are not really over. They're not getting really much reaction. You have to gauge the entire reaction, not just the live crowd. They are getting a huge social media response, which is what WWE strives for now, social media response. And Simon and Aiden are over right now. I know Simon Gotch since 2007. He was running Drago out here in Southern California. He's been good he's been good since then, if not before. He's great. And English is freaking awesome. You have Enzo and Cass, who were the goofiest guys in the history of NXT for a while, and all of a sudden they got the crap beat out of them, and then they got serious, but kept the gimmick, and it worked. These two teams are the two hottest teams in WWE right now, not named the New Day. And even the New Day has kind of cooled down a lot since losing at WrestleMania, and they've kind of turned back babyface in the process leading up to and then ever since WrestleMania. So for me, the New Day has kind of cooled off. These two teams vying for a shot at the New Day are the hottest thing in tag team wrestling right now as far as the WWE roster is concerned. And if I have to make a pick right now, like I said on Talk Wrestling, I got to go with Enzo and Cass.
That's a good pick. The only reason I picked the Vaudevillains is because I actually think the Vaudevillains will be the ones to dethrone the New Day. That's why I'm picking them.
And I think I'm happy that there are two tag teams that are really hot right now, like you said, that are not the New Day. Not that, for the longest time I couldn't stand the New Day. I'm starting to like them a little bit, but I still find them mostly annoying.
You're preaching to the choir right now.
Greg, you'll be surprised. They've actually kind of grown on me too.
Is it because they turned babyface finally? Is that why you're finally behind them? Jeez, I've loved them since before summer.
No, it was honestly because they were going against that goofy League of Nations.
That's good. I like that's true. That's true.
I could not stand that faction. Anybody that opposed them, they were my new best friend.
Yeah, I thought the League of Nations was just terrible and was unnecessary. Guys who could do well on their own, from my personal perspective, they did not need that faction.
So what you're saying, Jeff, is the League of Nations was to you what the Anaheim Ducks are to the LA Kings. Is that correct?
No, because I don't actually hate any of those four guys.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
No. If you want a comparison to the Kings and the Ducks, I am to Bill Goldberg what my Kings are to the Ducks.
Okay. Yes.
And you know what's funny? Speaking of the League of Nations, just real quick, I think that Sheamus needs the League of Nations more than the League of Nations need him.
I absolutely agree with that statement. And now that he's been dropped from the stable, whether Alberto and Rusev continue on their own together or not, Sheamus is going to benefit, hopefully, from ditching the saddlebags.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree, man.
All right, next up, we have a match that should be very interesting, Dolph Ziggler against Baron Corbin. Alex, I'll let you start this one.
The thing that I love about this is Dolph can work with anybody. He can have a great match with anyone. And I love that they gave Baron Corbin Dolph to work right off the bat, not only in his Raw debut, but now in his WWE pay-per-view debut, minus WrestleMania, of course, in singles competition. So I'm very, very excited to see where this goes. I think Dolph is ultimately going to win. I'd like to see Baron Corbin win, but I think he's been on such a hot streak since winning the Andre the Giant Memorial. I think Dolph will win, but I don't think that will deflate his rise as a superstar. I think Baron Corbin will still do well regardless, even if he does lose to Dolph.
I agree in that Corbin's star power won't get lost, but I think that he needs to win. And the reason I say that, I mentioned this earlier when we were talking about people being over and people being called up and whatnot. Corbin and Ziggler have been in this endless battle of knockdown, drag-out brawls and non-finishes for the last month. There has to be a definitive finish, and if anybody needs a definitive finish win so close to his in-ring main roster debut, it's Baron Corbin. He literally went from losing to Austin Aries on Friday to winning the biggest battle royal of the year besides the Royal Rumble on Sunday. And since then, these continued brawls and breakdowns, while they've been effective in getting him over as a badass, I feel kind of deflated him in some way. And he needs a definitive either 1, 2, 3 or a submission win over the most reliable worker in the company in Dolph Ziggler. So I think Baron Corbin's going to win this one.
I do too, and I hope Baron Corbin wins just because Corbin right now actually has my favorite finisher in the game, the End of Days. I love that finisher. I just think it looks so good. It looks so impactful. I don't know.
And that's a ripoff of the Core and Wade Barrett's old theme song.
Which Barrett said he hated.
Seriously, if Corbin went to Barrett and said, "Can I borrow your theme name for my finisher?" Barrett said, "Yes, please."
The Core, so bad. Next up, Dean Ambrose versus Chris Jericho. This one, Ambrose needs the win badly. Jericho doesn't need it because he's Chris freaking Jericho. Jericho could lose every match from now until 2020, and he'd still be freaking Chris Jericho. But Ambrose needs this win, and he needs it badly, so I'm picking him.
Dean Ambrose lost a match that everybody thought he would somehow overcome the odds and win earlier this month, as we're taping April 30th. And that's WrestleMania against Brock Lesnar. People were cocksure he was going to find a way to defeat the Beast, and he didn't do it. Chris Jericho was sure to lose WrestleMania. He was facing the debuting AJ Styles, the hottest free agent in the history of professional wrestling. And Chris Jericho won that match. The fortune should most definitely reverse at Payback. Dean Ambrose needs the win. Chris Jericho can afford the loss.
I definitely agree with that. Like I said earlier, I'm a huge Dean Ambrose guy, and I think these two are going to have a hell of a match. And I think in the end, Dean Ambrose is going to come away with the victory because, like you guys have already said, he needs the win. And Jericho, he can lose, and it will not affect him whatsoever.
All right, our second championship match. The recently returned Cesaro taking on The Miz with his wife Maryse in his corner. While it's been nice to see Maryse back, and she is still the heel that she was when she left, Cesaro, much like Ambrose, needs this win. Cesaro, he may not need the Intercontinental Championship. I'm sure he'll take it. I would. But Cesaro needs this win to reestablish himself so he can start that eventual push to the main event, which I believe is forthcoming for him. In fact, I'm going to say this now. It's early. It's April. But Cesaro is one of my early favorites to win the Royal Rumble next year.
That's a big prediction.
Well, yeah. You know what? It'd be great to watch Cesaro win the Royal Rumble at your house. That'd be so awesome.
That would be. I would enjoy that.
I would major, and you know what? I got flack from Aaron for calling him Claudio Castagnoli on our pay-per-view prediction show, but damn it, he always beat Claudio to me. And if Claudio wins the Royal Rumble, I'm gonna pop like a mother.
And I will be happy to watch that. Maybe we will film Royal Rumble, like the entrance of the Royal Rumble, so we can do that. We can have our own reaction.
There you go. We'll make $0 on the YouTube hits because we don't monetize, damn it.
That's fine.
Yeah. All right. So I agree. Cesaro needs this win. No question about that. If we could get a Cesaro win with a side bone stripping down or underwear in the process, I'm all for it. So go Cesaro.
Go on the internet. I'm sure you'll find something.
Trust me. I don't mind seeing the pictures, but live video is always a beautiful thing.
All right. Well, back to the PG show that I thought this was.
No, anyway. You're wrong.
Yeah, apparently. All right. Houston, it's all you.
You know, this probably will not be popular with you guys or many people. I'm not that big of a Cesaro fan. I cannot get behind him. I love his moves. He has a really unique. His uppercuts, European uppercuts in particular, are brutal, and he has that potential, but when he came back at the end of the Raw after WrestleMania, I was not as pumped as that crowd was. I mean, and I'm glad that he got over with the crowd, but in this particular match, I like Cesaro more than The Miz because he's The Miz and he's awful. And so let's just go with Cesaro on this one. And I just something about Cesaro that I can't get behind the guy. He's a hell of a worker, and he like I said, he has the potential. I just can't get behind him at this point.
I'm sure you will. I mean, Cesaro took a while for me because I didn't watch much of his stuff when he was Claudio on the Indies. But when he first debuted, I was like, oh, okay. It's like it took me a while to get behind him. I think I didn't really start getting behind him truly until, and it seems a little weird, that he was part of the Real Americans with Jack Swagger. Like, that's why I started to get really behind Cesaro.
I liked him with Jack Swagger in that tag team. I do admit that. I liked that pairing.
Poor Swagger.
And poor Zeb.
All right. Next up.
I've always been a fan of Dirty Dutch Mantel, but man, he's got a raw deal since Swagger got hurt and Cesaro dumped his ass.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. And I like Zeb. I thought he did pretty well.
I thought the Zeb Coulter Jack Swagger pairing was excellent. I thought that worked brilliantly. And his feud, Swagger's feud with Rusev, I thought was going to propel Swagger into greater things because that was a really good feud and had great matches too. So I don't know what happened.
It was the best feud that he's had, honestly, since he got that push for the Money in the Bank and won the world title, which unfortunately did not live up to expectations.
Nope.
Now, Jeff, I'm going to let you kick this one off because this is a match that I think everybody is looking forward to. Everybody wants to see it because it's been building for years and years and years. Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens.
This is the independent fanboy orgasm match, ladies and gentlemen. And there goes the PG rating for sure now.
Yeah, there it goes, right out the window.
There it goes. There it goes. It's gone. There it goes. Okay. Okay. This match for me and for Aaron and for guys that went to PWG and the fans that went to the Ring of Honor shows in the late 2000s and shows like that are completely out of their freaking minds right now because we're getting, not really, but we're getting El Generico versus Kevin Steen on WWE pay-per-view, which is unheard of as recently as 3 years ago. And now we're getting these two guys who have been the darlings of the internet and the independent circuit for the better part of the last decade and a half. They're now on the main roster of World Wrestling Entertainment, and they're going to compete on a pay-per-view in a major league match. And they're going to steal the show, and it's going to be unbelievable. And like I said on the pay-per-view prediction show with Aaron I did on Tuesday, I feel that there's going to be some major shenanigans in the end, and Kevin Owens is going to walk out with the W, only to have the feud continue on for the rest of this year.
I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly okay with it. It's like, well, I don't want to spoil anything for Houston, so I won't. I was going to bring up something from the Zayn Nakamura match, but he hasn't seen it yet, so I'm not going to bring it up. Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, I mean, this is a match that I'm excited for. I can't wait for it. I mean, watching their NXT match, yeah, it wasn't as good as I'm sure a lot of their indie matches were. But like you said earlier, it was one-sided. I expect this one to be a full-down, drag-out fight between the two of them. In fact, it might even go to a double disqualification. I could see Sami Zayn stealing a victory here with like a roll-up or something or a small package, but I don't see a clean victory here for either one of them. So I think it's either going to be a surprise victory by Zayn or a cheap victory by Owens. I can't really make a prediction on this
one. This is definitely one of the most interesting matches on the card for me. Just because I know the history between these two, and it's just been a bitter rivalry, and I have to give the edge to Kevin Owens. I'm all about KO Mania right now, and it's nothing against Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn is a great worker, and he's definitely got he proved himself to me during the John Cena U.S. title invitational that he was doing every week. And when he kept competing, even though you could tell he was really hurting, and he finished that match, he earned my respect. But I just like Kevin Owens a little bit more, and I'm going to give KO the win on this.
All right, next up is the third championship match of the night. It is Charlotte defending the women's championship against Natalya. Houston, take this one.
Well, you know, Natalya has kind of grown on me recently. For the longest time, it felt like she was jobbing to everybody. And I just felt like that completely deflated her value. And I don't like Charlotte at this point. I think she is just going over the top a little bit. And so I think that Natalya, or actually I hope Natalya comes out with this victory, because I think this is almost like her second wave of opportunity to do really well. And so I'm going to go with Natalya on this one, and I just really hope she wins, because I'm already getting a little sick of Charlotte.
Go ahead, Greg.
Okay. Yeah, I'm actually going to take Natalya in this one too, just because I think she's getting the shot at the championship, because she has been in the company for almost a decade on the main roster now. And yes, she was Divas champion, but it was only for about 2 months before she lost it in a random fatal four-way match to Eve Torres. So I think this is really you've been in the company for so long. Here's your thank you. Here's the women's championship. And quite frankly, if anybody deserves it right now on the main roster, it's Natalya. So whether they do something with her that she loses it the next night back to Charlotte, I don't know. But I'm going to take Natalya on this one.
I want so bad to agree with both of you. But I can't, and I'll tell you why. This is the WWE Women's Championship. This is the title that has been established by a Hall of Famer in Lita that resurrected the championship name to go along with the new division as a whole, representing a new standard in women's wrestling and establishing them as superstars in WWE. For the champion to become champion on April 3rd and lose it on May 1st would be highly detrimental to the credibility of the championship and to the champion as well. I really feel that if Charlotte is to get the championship to be where it needs to be, which it already is very much there, but it needs to continue escalating and going higher and higher as a legitimate championship as opposed to that Divas butterfly garbage or the end of the lineage of the previous women's championship, which was getting muddled by Lay Cool and their shenanigans. Charlotte has to retain. I know I personally love Natalya. I've met her many times. She is an absolute sweetheart. She even follows me on Twitter, for Christ's sakes. But even with Uncle Brett in her corner and the whole Brett sympathy thing where he has been really sick and he recently had wrist surgery, he was quoted himself saying he doesn't want to be there. He has no interest in being there. He's only going to be there for Natalya because it's family, and he was contractually obligated to be there because he has a Legends contract and they can call him up, I guess, for stuff like this. But if Brett doesn't want to be there, why should Natty win is my other point. You know, if Uncle Brett doesn't want to be there, then there's no motivation for Natty to win. Natty should win for Uncle Brett doesn't care. Why should Natty care? That's what the storyline is going to be, I'm sure, down the line. The reality is the women's championship needs to be established as dominant. It needs to be established as credible. It needs to be established as something that's not that Divas garbage that we got forced in our throats for 8 years. We need a viable championship and a viable champion. And Charlotte, for right now, is that woman.
All right, point taken. Now this isn't a match, but it's something that they're building up to. The segment that Mr. McMahon says who controls Raw, whether it be Shane McMahon, whether it be Stephanie McMahon, or, you know, are they going to throw a complete wrench in the plans and bring in somebody completely different? I mean, we don't know.
I'm gonna take the wussy way out and abstain from prediction on this one, only because there's literally so many variables. They could call Eric Bischoff. They could reinstate Stephanie. They could establish Shane permanently. They could say, well, Triple H has been gone since last time. Let's bring him back in. They could call JBL, who was the next general manager, and have him run Raw or something. They could really do anything. So
yeah, I guess it's hard to make a prediction when that's like trying to pick from a 30-man number one contenders battle royal.
Seriously, it's literally like trying to sit at your house and pick Rumble names and just go, okay, well, we don't know what name he's going to be, what number he's going to be, so we'll just pick this guy and hope to God. No, we do the number game and make it fun.
Yeah, which we're going to do again. So.
Oh, yeah, we have to. I do it here when I'm not with you.
Yeah, you did this year.
I did.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm hoping for John Laurinaitis.
Oh.
You're fired.
I was waiting to see what you were going to say to that.
My name is Mr. John Laurinaitis, and I'm the general manager, Monday Night Raw, the executive talent. I don't know the name anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm married to Nikki and Brie Bella's mom now, so that's how that works.
Okay. Greg and Jen know my personal history with Laurinaitis. Not a fan. And I'm telling you, if they bring him back and have him run either show, whatever show he runs, I'll be back on hiatus.
Can't say I blame you on that one.
Johnny Ace wasn't every week.
Yeah, Johnny Ace wasn't exactly the best general manager. People power was not very powerful.
Maybe they'll bring back Nikki.
Well, the problem is Nikki's neck is still rehabbing.
Vicky.
She's working out more in the gym, but Vicky, I think said Nikki, as in Laurinaitis' new in-law.
No.
Okay.
Now, I could actually stand Vicky Guerrero over Laurinaitis.
I agree with that.
Plus,
I
they
would
set her out as a
really-
babyface, so as long as she returns with Eddie's music, she's fine.
I would have Aaron Riff run the show before I'd have Jordan Laurinaitis run the show again. Okay, seriously.
You'd have Nagel and Tariff run both shows.
That'd be the best thing ever compared to Laurinaitis.
The three of us can all run either Raw or SmackDown. One of us takes Raw, one of us takes SmackDown. I'd say NXT, but Regal's doing a good job. So between the three of us, we can.
I call
run
NXT.
I said Regal's got NXT.
I'm firing him. My first act is firing Regal. Make him wrestle again.
Fair enough. All right, and then the main event: Roman Reigns against AJ Styles for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Jeff, I'll let you start.
Oh, goody. Okay. I said with Rift, I think that the Bullet Club is going to reunite with Finn Balor, and together they're going to destroy AJ. Not necessarily help Roman, but destroy AJ.
See, and I did see that, and I agree with you as far as WWE booking goes. It's like they're going to cost AJ the title, but not turn Reigns heel because it's WWE booking. So I can see the Bullet Club, at least Gallows and Anderson, turning on Styles, which will hopefully lead to an AJ versus Finn Balor match at SummerSlam, which would be, no pun intended, phenomenal. But
yes,
as much as I would love Styles to win, and I could see this as a scenario too. Gallows and Anderson interfere, Usos fight him off, and that Reigns thinks he's in the clear, spears AJ, the lights go out, Finn Balor gives him the coup de grace, and AJ wins the championship, and the Bullet Club completely reforms. I can see that too. That's a dream scenario, of course. That's if I was booking.
of course.
Of course, I wouldn't book Reigns to be the champion in the first place, but that aside. But as far as an official prediction goes, I'm going to have to go with Reigns retaining as much as I don't want to, but that's my prediction.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I think this kind of comes down to what you alluded to earlier, Jeff, about not necessarily for the prestige of the WWE World Heavyweight Championship that's already there. It's a strong title, but to have Roman Reigns lose in the first pay-per-view after WrestleMania, I think would be counterproductive to what they were trying to do in the first place, which was build him up, even though, in my opinion, they've done a terrible job of doing that. So, and I of course, I would rather see AJ Styles win the title. I like Greg's dream scenario, but realistically, Roman Reigns will most likely retain the title.
All right. Jeff, you had something you wanted to plug before we went off the air?
I did. Let me show the product first, and I'll show the page. Those of you that don't watch my shows on NoDQ.com, first of all, you're fired if you don't watch my show. Second of all, this is one of the belts that my friend Bill Jeremio created. This is the official Talk Wrestling World Heavyweight Championship. He makes custom-made belts for your wrestling action figures. And if you want, on certain, they'll even put your own name. I don't know if I can zoom in close enough for you guys to see that. There it is. Jeff Meacham on the big gold belt. That's a huge dream for me. Now, I'm going to show you the site here in a second. Let me get the phone up here, get the page up. Sorry for my hand. There we go.
It's the talking hand all over again. Oh.
No talking hand. There's his Etsy page. Bad Billy J. You'll see the big gold belt as the header. You'll see, I believe that's either Edge or DDP holding the World Heavyweight Championship in that picture. I can't tell because I can't see his whole face. But there it is. There's the official plug. Go check him out. Tell him Jeff Meacham sent you. And tell him No DQ and Greg Cherry sent you too, because Greg likes my stuff. He was commenting on my pictures.
Yes, definitely was. All right, well, this has been a great, lengthy discussion. So I'd like to thank Alex Houston for joining us for this edition of Coast to Coast. And for everybody here on the East Coast, for the Keystone Delight, I am the Pennsylvania sensation Greg Cherry.
I am West Coast Professor Jeff Meacham. And we will see you guys next time on. Well, go ahead, Greg. Sorry, I thought I was closing the show.
No, you were fine, but okay. Good point. Yes. All right, and we will see you next time. We will see you next time for another edition of Coast to Coast.